Thanks to the Chamber of Mines for having us, the Phakisa team here. I'll start by introducing myself and my team because I know most of you already think these are my bodyguards. They're actually my colleagues. My name is Neora Palo. I work as an occupational hygienist for Phakisa Mine. And this is Jaco Finter. He works as a rock engineer, and that's Christian Kemp. He works as an RBE, engineering foreman. The three of us have been involved in the adoption of various MOSH leading practices and simple leading practices. And we would like to share with you the general adoption of MOSH leading practices and how we managed to sustain our leading practices at Phakisa Mine. We'll discuss the following points in the presentation. We will briefly look at the MOSH overview. We won't go into detail because we had a presentation, or rather a video in the morning where it was discussed in detail. Then we will look at the MOSH steps of adoption. We know there's 16 steps of MOSH adoption. We won't touch that much on them, but we will discuss in detail the 7 critical steps, which we consider the pillars of adoption at Phakisa Mine. Then I'll just take you through all the leading practices that we adopted at Phakisa Mine, the challenges that threaten sustainability and the solutions thereof, and then in a summary way, I'll just go through how ultimately we managed to sustain our systems. The MOSH, or Mine Occupational Health and Safety Adoption System, was developed in 2007 and piloted in 2008. In an effort to assist the mining industry to achieve the occupational health and safety tripartite agreed milestones, which were signed off in 2003 and to which the industry or the mining companies committed in 2005. The MOSH adoption system basically has got 2 features, which is the industry ownership and the behavioral modification. There are 2 main areas in the MOSH adoption system, and there's the safety area and the health area. And we've got leading practices that address the risks or the major risks in the health area and in the safety area. For instance, under the safety area, we've got risks such as the falls of ground, and we've got bolting and netting leading practice to address that risk. These are the 16 steps, but I won't go through them. I'll just take you through the 7 steps, which, as I said, we consider as the pillars for making sure that the adopted leading practices are sustainable. The first step, obviously, is to get the buy-in of the management team and the unions. There's a reason why you need your management on board, especially the most senior management. In our particular case, the most senior manager was the general manager. And we also needed the buy-in of the unions. We know that the employees believe in the unions. So once you get the buy-in of the unions, obviously you got the buy-in of the employees. The second step is to establish the MOSH, or the specific MOSH adoption team, with a very keen champion. The reason you need a keen champion is because he sits in the meetings as the chairperson. He chairs the meetings and he steers the whole adoption process. This team is also going to assist with the interviews and development of behavioral plans and communication behavioral plans. The 5th step is to develop the training and communication material and then integrate the adopted leading practice into the existing systems, such as checklists, PTOs, and inspection reports. Then the 6th step, obviously, is to progressively monitor and evaluate and report performance. The 7th step, which is always, or most of the time, overlooked, is that of the follow-up interviews after the adoption of the leading practice. This is why this step is so important. It gives the opportunity to identify any gaps, particularly the knowledge gaps after the system has been implemented, so that they can be addressed. It also gives the opportunity to refine the leading practice to the shaft-specific needs, and if procedures need to be reviewed, this is the opportunity. It also gives the sense of caring and reassurance to the adopters, that is the employees and the supervisors. Our journey of the MOSH adoption of leading practices and simple leading practices started in 2011, where we implemented the bolting and netting leading practice. However, we did not follow the MOSH process and we failed badly. We experienced resistance from supervision, from unions, from employees. It was just all chaos. So as a result, we consulted the MOSH task team, the specific MOSH task team from Chamber of Mines, and asked for guidance. So as a result, we started at the beginning. We consulted the successful adopters as to how did they get their systems right. So we also took the unions and the supervisors to visit these successful adopters. And when we came back, we started conducting the direct inquiry interviews to identify the mental models and the expectations of the employees. Then specific lessons plans were developed, and after the implementation, we did the follow-up interviews, refined the adopted system to the shaft-specific needs, and then we integrated the adopted leading practice into our PTOs, checklists, and inspection reports. We've adopted about 10 MOSH leading practices at Phakisa mine, and they are successfully running and sustainable. In 2012, we started with in-stope netting and bolting. I know that earlier I said 2011, but in 2011, we just implemented the netting and bolting. Then later on, in 2012, we adopted following the MOSH processes. We also adopted the entry, examination, and TAP, and all those 3 leading practices address the risk of falls of ground under the area of safety. And we've got the proximity detection system, or PDS system. On the health side, we have adopted multi-filtration system, footwall sidewall treatment, winch covers to address the risk of occupational lung diseases. And currently, we're busy with the continuous real-time monitoring of airborne pollutants. And for addressing the risk of noise, we adopted the hearing protection devices training and assessment tool, which was implemented 6 years earlier, but we only followed the MOSH process in 2013. Obviously, there were challenges throughout our journey of adoption, and some of those challenges were resistance from involved employees, resistance from supervision due to production challenges or production pressures. We also experienced challenges with the selection of suitable technology that was specific for our shafts needs. Yaku will get into detail as to what the challenges were. And then allocation of responsibility for maintenance of the system. And Yaku will take you through the solutions of those challenges that we had.
Okay. What I'm going to address is, first of all, the resistance from the employees, the teams, then supervision, and then I'll just quickly talk about selection of the equipment. When we started, like Neo said, we implemented, we didn't adopt. And the key word is adopt. So we started implementing the in-stope bolts, and we had a lot of resistance from people. They said, no, we're taking away on the faces, we're giving them more job, and we don't pay them for it. And they didn't see the benefit of the in-stope. They didn't see the benefit to safety, and they didn't adopt it, and they didn't take ownership of the system. So in 2012, when the MOSH adoption system was introduced to the industry, we saw where our problem was. So in 2012, when we decided to implement netting as well, we said we need to make use of this system. And from the start, we took the union, because of the size of the people you have to influence, we took the union and we involved them in every decision. We had them in all the meetings. We took them to WIF to visit to the source mines, to COPA meetings. We took them to the testing facilities when we tested the nets. And they actually became almost more positive about it because they saw what we're trying to do and they saw the benefit to the people. And we had them assisting in choosing the net we're going to use, and they took ownership of the net. And actually, they almost took the lead. So when we started with the interviews, they volunteered and they said no, they want to, much of their members must be trained as interviewers. And we trained them and they went underground to early shifts and they went to the faces and interviewed people. And they also said, when we wanted to interview, they said, rather interview people on the faces where they are working. And you can tell them the nets and what the benefit will be. So they had good input as well. And then I just want to show you a picture here as well. One of the questions, and that's one of the questions, the normal questions from MOSH, is which regions of mine you trust the most? And then 41% of the respondents said the unions, and then another 90% said the safety reps. So basically, 60% of the people said those are the people they trust. So if you involve the unions and the safety representative, it makes your life so much easier to convince the people. Okay, so with the assistance of the union, the workforce quickly accepted the system and adopted and made the system their own. So the transition went rather smoothly. Okay, then reason for supervision. We focused a lot of our attention on the union and the teams, because we thought that's where the problem is. So we did some spot interviews with the supervision, and those guys gave us some of the issues they've got. But when we started implementing, the supervisors actually said, hey, whoa, you guys didn't take into consideration our problems, because we the guys on the face, if there's a problem with the system, the teams will turn to us and ask us, hey, how do you address this? You must first train us properly and make us experts in the installation, and then start implementing it. So that's one aspect we didn't take everybody into consideration. So what I'm trying to say here is, make sure when you do the adoption, involve everybody on the mine. So when eventually we got those guys back, we got the suppliers there, we did the training, and I think our adoption went very well. And Duncan will know that as well. Then finally, selection of suitable technology. Throughout our testing, we decided to adopt the net that we saw at the source mine. But then when we started installing it and adopting it, we realized that it wasn't 100% to our need and compatible with our support system and our stoping width. And with the interviews underground, the follow-up interviews, we realized that we needed something more flexible, and we involved the union again, and with them, and we took them to testing sites as well. We got the net, which is more applicable to our system. So from there, the system went well. I think that's from my side, and Christian will discuss, because we use the union. We involved the union because of the size of the people we work with. Christian worked with the elder system with smaller people, and his approach was a little bit different. I'll hand over to Christian. Thank you.
Thank you. Just quickly, I need to give you some quickly background on what we did on Phakisa. As you can see, we're not a normal team. We come in groups, so just bear in mind. And whenever you visit Welkom or Phakisa, you will somewhere stop there, because there's a lot of positive people and a lot of smiles. So please stop there. It's a lovely place. Okay, quickly, I just want to... we were tasked to implement the elder system in June 2013. I'm very proud, very, very proud, to say that in December 2014, we were the first Harmony shaft to complete the implementation. And to be positive, I really think you can give us a hand. Initially, we worked, and that's where Jaco just said the people were smaller, but I think he meant the groups were smaller. But initially, we focused on the supervisory level, especially the team leaders. And that was our biggest challenge, was to get them on board with the new technology. So how are we going to explain to these guys? How are we going to have interviews with these guys to explain to them the technology that we're going to put into their mind? And we then thought it properly. We thought it through, because remember, we as a team made mistakes previously. So what we did then is we built a demo unit, and we exposed our team leaders practically to the system that we're going to install. And it was a huge success once they realized the benefits of the system, safety-wise and production-wise. And that made the group so much smaller to work with. And so much positiveness came out of it, because we could have explained to them practically what is happening and how the system is going to work, and what they cannot do with the system, safety and production-wise. Then the team leaders exposed the system to their teams, and it worked perfectly, and everybody accepted it, because the team leaders that we have were so influential to the people on the ground. And now I just want to get back to the slide where Jaco touched on. Selection of suitable technology, especially the engineers. On our side, comply with specific mine requirements. It doesn't mean if the source mine is using a certain unit, it's going to work on your shaft. So make sure it's compatible for your environment. Yeah, I don't have Parkinson's. Okay, sorry. Right, let's then be cost effective. Equipment must be upgradable. When we started to implement the elder system, we worked with the 900 CT controller. 9 months down the line, 1000 CT controller was on the market. Luckily for us, we did the homework, and we realized, and we know that the 900,000 CT, we will go life of mine. So it's very important to make sure the selection of the equipment. Be practical and easy to install. It's not always easy to install, but proper installation instructions, and the OEMs must be involved with the initial installations. Draft procedures to prevent injuries and damage of equipment. Allocation of responsibility of system and maintenance. Allocate responsibility to specific individuals. We all know if you throw a drop into the air, it's going to drop. So we need to do specific. We need to identify specific leaders. Sorry. Training for the maintenance crew. On Phakisa, what we did is the initial artisans that installed the system was also the art that moved over to do maintenance on the system, and that assists a lot. Sometimes it's not possible, I know, because some mines use the OEMs to install the equipment, and then afterwards you sit with artisans that wasn't involved with the initial installment. Draft procedures, make sure maintenance are done properly and safely. Follow-up interviews and over-inspection, and to ensure efficiency and determine further system development requirements. Thank you. Yeah.
In a summary way, or in a very short way, I'll just go through what ultimately made us successful and managed to sustain our adopted leading practices. We all took ownership at all levels, from senior management to the employees on the ground. we were proud, or we showed pride in what we were doing, and we recognized good performance or adoption. I know that when you talk about recognizing performance, normally people just tend to think about incentives. But just going to the crew, visiting the crew and telling them that they are doing it correctly, that's motivation on its own. We used to take pictures of the employees or the teams that were performing, put them on the screen, and print individual pictures for each individual, and they took their pictures home, and they really appreciated that. And secondly, after the initial adoption, when your systems or your leading practice has been adopted and it's up and running, we did not stop. We continued visiting these crews. We did the follow-up interviews and used the feedback from these follow-up interviews to refine the procedures or refine the leading practices to our SHARP-specific needs. And the most important thing that most people miss is attendance of COPA meetings. We learn so much from the people who have already adopted the system. I remember when I was busy with the adoption of the winch covers, I had one of the members saying that he was having an issue with his winch operators wanting the winch covers to be transparent because they want to see the tram. And I took this back to my MOSH adoption team at the shaft. And fortunately, I had a shift boss there who started right at the bottom as a winch operator. And he was surprised when he had that. Like, why would you want to see the rope here? I mean, you need to see your rope there. And as long as your snatch block is properly aligned, you don't need to see anything here. So that helped us in the proper construction of the interview content. We made our content in a positive manner to avoid asking a question such as, would you want to see your tram? Because other people will just be negative and difficult for no reason. So we constructed our interview question in a very positive manner. And then another important thing was the active involvement and support of the MOSH leading systems by the general manager. He supported the champions. He asked questions such as, are you winning? What is the problem? How can I help? Although he didn't drive the whole process himself, he was just leading the champions. And that really played a role in sustaining the systems. And so in so many ways, this quote by Nelson Mandela actually sums up the kind of experiences that we had at Phakisa from the leadership part. And the quote goes as follows: "It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory, when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger, then people will appreciate your leadership. This is the kind of leadership we want to see in our general managers, in our CEOs, in our COOs, and from everyone else." Thank you very much.